On primetime news last night, we discussed our massive per capita debt burden of 500,000 rupees. Now, we sought answers on how major infrastructure projects have contributed to the debt burden. Sri Lankan Airlines, the national carrier, is another institution in dire financial straits which is contributing to the debt burden. Amid the clamour for reform, what fate awaits the national airline?
With a fleet of 21 aircraft, Sri Lankan Airlines has a cadre of 6,800, including foreign expatriates. At present, the government owns 94.68% of shares in Sri Lankan Airlines, while the balance 5.32% is owned by the employees. A glance at the airline's annual reports for the past several years indicates the pattern of losses. The current government has adopted the stance that given the state of the corporation's finances, it is no longer viable for Sri Lankan Airlines to continue to function as a public enterprise. Nevertheless, close scrutiny of data and statistics shows that the losses have been gradually declining.
Financially, we are not prepared to invest more money. We are thinking of a company which can invest their money and handle the management of the airline. It is still open. In the past, the Emirates company was given a 45% share. We have not reached a final decision yet. We are hoping to maintain a majority share for the government, but it is not a necessity. Whether the government retains the majority share or not, we are not hoping to retain management of the airline.
In spite of the views expressed by the subject minister, the 2016 Mid-Year Fiscal Position Report published by the Ministry of Finance on the 30th of June states that the government had decided to take over all liabilities of Sri Lankan Airlines as at the 31st of March 2015. The report reads further that the government had decided to source a suitable partner for the successful management of the business operations on the basis of a clean balance sheet. While the government is seeking an investor for Sri Lankan Airlines, agreements have been signed to give 3 aircraft to Pakistan. 3 A330 aircraft and the necessary crew will be given to Pakistan International Airlines under a wet lease.
The previous government struck contracts to bring down new A350-900 aircraft. These aircraft have been purchased at an exorbitant price, 30% over the market price. These aircraft can fly non-stop for 17 hours, but Sri Lankan doesn't service any destinations that are 17 hours away. So it is at once evident that these were corrupt transactions. Since these contracts have already been agreed to, we are bound to fulfill them. As a result of bringing in the new aircraft, we are leasing out the older aircraft to other airlines.
A spokesperson for Pakistan International Airlines had informed foreign media that the 3 A330s will be used primarily for a premier service to London's Heathrow Airport, operating 6 times a week. While Pakistan is using aircraft from Sri Lankan Airlines to expand their flights to Europe, Sri Lankan Airlines has in fact decided to cease services to Europe. Direct flights to Paris, Rome and Frankfurt have been seized. Incidentally, all 3 airports had granted favourable time frames and space for Sri Lankan Airlines flights.
Foreign airlines show a great level of enthusiasm for Sri Lankan Airlines because of services to Europe and Japan and our traffic rights. They have a singular purpose to claim these services for their own. Through investment aimed at privatization, we are depriving the nation of an income that can be earned through these valuable air transport services.
It was also reported recently that ground services provided by Sri Lankan Airlines have been taken over by Airports and Aviation Limited. Trade unions allege that Sri Lankan Airlines will lose revenue amounting to 8 billion rupees per annum as a result. Against a backdrop where the fleet has been reduced to 18 aircraft and several services have been curtailed, the government published newspaper advertisements recently inviting new investors.
First, we must adopt a stance regarding how we are going to source this. Rather than focus on how the partner will take it, as a government and as a country, we must focus on the conditions we will be giving it under. If we are going to arbitrarily give away airlines, then it will amount to neglect of national responsibilities. Decisions that are being made about the airline are contradictory. While the Paris, Rome and Frankfurt flights have been cancelled, the profitable Airport and Aviation Services Limited will be given to another company. We see this as an endeavour to shut down the airline. Sri Lanka does not own many airlines. We have only one airline. It is not competitive. It is under the government. For a while it was operated in partnership with Emirates. When the government took over, it was 4 billion in profit. 5 years after the government took over, it was valued at negative 102.816 billion. When the government took over, the asset base was valued at 15.536 billion. Now there is a negative value of 74.106 billion. Now the government minister is saying that if there is anyone willing to buy it, they will give it away even for 1 rupee, aircraft included. But there is no one who wants it even for 1 rupee. Why? Because it has a negative value. The asset base is in minus. Tomorrow the government will call someone and ask them to please take over the airline.